Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be explaining sort of how to organize or arrange images and text. Um, um, this is sort of specifically for architecture students, but this principle can apply to both architect students and graphic designers or designers in general. Okay, and so starting off with this page, right here you see we have image 1, image 2, image 3, and some text, and it's kind of scattered on the page. And so we got to figure out how to organize this correctly so that it's visually cohesive and palatable. And so there's a series of rules that I usually follow in order to make to ensure that the goal that I'm trying to achieve is executed properly. And so rule number 1, the most eye-catching image is always the largest. And so depending on what that image is, for architect students, that could be your detailed rendering. It could be a really elaborate section. Whatever that is, that needs to be the largest. Ideally, it should be on the left. There are other ways to orient the eye-catching image, but for this scenario, it's going to be on the left. And so that is primarily due to us reading from left to right. And so the largest image should be on the left, starting off. And so from there, the next rule number 2, is the second image should be slightly smaller and sit close to the largest image. And that will look like something like this. And so the next image, in this situation here, it has to sit on top because once you include text in an additional image, no one should be reading text from the top unless it's functioning as sort of a description for the larger image, or the text is extremely important for it to be on top versus the bottom. But ideally, the second image should be right next to the largest, most important image. On to the next rule. Rule number 3, the last image is usually the smallest or equal to size and is supporting evidence for the 2 images. And that looks like something like this. And so here we have this kind of layout here. We have the largest image, we have the secondary image, and then we have the last image, which is usually the smallest. And so for architect students, that could look like the largest being, again, a big render, the second image possibly being maybe a plan drawing or a elevation drawing or something of that sort. And the last being maybe some sections or some small sketches, initial sketches or concepts that you had to kind of tie the overarching idea together. Because essentially the largest image is kind of leading the narrative and everything else is functioning as supporting evidence. And so moving forward from that, the next rule number 4, text on a presentation should be no more than 1 to 2 sentences. Anything more is too much. And so typically, if any of us have been in presentations, I'm sure you have, no one actually really pays attention to a slideshow that has a lot of text. The goal of a slideshow is essentially help you better present to the viewer and give the viewer something to kind of look at and easily grasp the concept that you're trying to explain, and so on and so forth. And so having too much text can make it harder for them or for the individual to understand what you're trying to convey. So keeping things to 1 to 2 sentences helps keep the slideshow polished and clean and leaving everything looking pretty nice. And so the next rule from that, number 5, always allow for white space and margins and let the images and text breathe on the page. So I'm going to go back to the last page and kind of indicate that. And so as you see, the layout is positioned in the center of the slide, and there's margins, which is the white space in between the placeholders for where the images would go. And so that is done to ensure that, again, it is visually palatable. When you look at it from afar, if it's all clustered together, it's kind of hard to read. And so adding margins or gutters leaves room for the images to breathe on the page. And so that is why that is done. And so if you apply these rules and principles, and then you are able to utilize or use your own images, you can come up with something like this. And so this example I kind of created where you have your main design. There's a little bit of spin-off. There's text on this image, on the main largest image. But this is sort of functioning as the overarching image, the summary. And then on the right-hand side, it includes more of the details explaining kind of what's going on in the largest, most important image. And then at the bottom, you have a little bit of text, just more of a placeholder, sort of explaining what's happening between all three of the images. And so hopefully this helps both graphic designers and architect majors organize their text as well as their images. Thank you.